welcome you out to our City Council public hearing, formal meeting tonight. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be with us and participate, see your local government at work. You could be up on the hill watching them at work. There still are at this hour. But we are going to start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all could join me in standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To start the meeting, we always go over some guidelines for decorum. It doesn't seem like a rowdy crowd, but we just want to make sure everybody feels welcome, and we do this every time. Please be respectful during other people's comments during the public hearing parts that we have. Avoid cheering or jeering or clapping or booing. It might cause someone to feel intimidated. Please also help us take care of this historic meeting room by not standing on the furniture. I know you're tempted right now, or leaning against Brigham Young's portrait there. If you have a sign, a prop, or another piece of equipment, video equipment or otherwise, please make sure it doesn't cause a disruption or block other people's views. Please do not approach the dais. If you have something that you want to share with us, you can let us know when you come up to the podium, and one of our staff members, Nick and Sam, are over there. Becky's here as well. They will help to distribute those things so you can take your full 2 minutes to talk, and they can take care of sharing things with us. Our staff is here to help you in whatever way you need. If there's not enough information for what you want to understand about what we addressed tonight, let us know. Our staff can step out into the hall and help fill you in. And also, we recognize that 2 minutes is not a lot of time to address some comments that you may have. We want you to be able to get all of your thoughts out in the best way possible. So there's a lot of ways to do that on our website, slccouncil.com. You can find ways to contact us as a whole or individually. We can set up meetings with staff people or the mayor's administration. We can also meet with you as council members. So there's contact information sheets by the speaker cards for information about other ways to share your comments with the council via email, phone, or snail mail. So our first item of business, now give me a moment to flip to that part. I'm going to look for a motion to approve our work session minutes for January 2nd, January 16th, and February 6th of 2018.
So moved.
Second.
We had a motion by Councilmember Johnston and a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we move on to section B, our public hearings. Our very first item, B1, is an ordinance. Actually, our first three items are related to neighborhood house. And the first one is the ordinance for the rezone of 1419, 1422, 1423, and 1430 South, 1100 West. I don't have any cards for this item. Raise your hand if you meant to speak to the rezone on those properties. Then come on up and you can fill out a card after. Just tell us your name into the mic, and you can have 2 minutes. And then Becky will get you a card to fill out afterward.
Okay, my name is Brandon Felstead. I emailed each of you earlier today and sent a letter. I've had some problems with the neighborhood house, major problems with garbage, parking issues, and just various different things. It's in my email to the council. I would like serious reconsideration for the plans, what they're proposing, proposing of condemning the rear street, which will make parking on my street even more impossible. I said this at your last meeting where we discussed the neighborhood housing, but this is just a pretty much a regular thing is what's going on, and they've always just not really been really respectful to the neighborhood around them, and haven't really contributed to the neighborhood, and they've also just been a nuisance. And the current plans that they have for the building isn't really taking into consideration the impact of the neighbors, what's going to happen, how we're going to have to deal with the extra. I believe, according to the plans, hundreds extra cars coming through. There's no safety consideration for when children are dropped off. Sometimes I see children running across the street with their mothers trying to catch them, trying to hope that there isn't a car driving 30 or 40 miles an hour down the road. Generally, it's been a lax policy towards safety. They have a parking lot, but they choose to have their office on the completely opposite side of the street. So mothers and children have to walk across the street and needlessly risk their own safety.
Time.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks.
And thank you for sharing your email. Typically, when we get those on Tuesdays, it's difficult for us to read them before this meeting, but know that we received them, and we'll look into that. Okay. If you could fill out the comment card just so we have a record of your speaking to us tonight. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this particular item? Come on up, and you can fill a comment card out after.
My name's Jennifer Nuttall. I'm the executive director at Neighborhood House, and I'm a resident of Poplar Grove. I live about a block away. Actually, I'm really glad I can address these concerns again that our neighbor has brought up, because we've actually taken all of those things into consideration, and we're very excited about the plans because they're going to almost triple the parking. We actually had it tripled, and then we took away 9 stalls to keep some trees, so we're trying to keep the trees too, but more than doubles the parking. It brings all of that parking that he's talking about actually off-street and onto our property and off the city street, which is going to be fabulous. He talks about the garbage in the streets and bringing all of that, people drop things as they get in and out of their cars, bringing all that into our property and off of the street is going to be a vast improvement in safety, in traffic flow, and our impact on the neighborhood. We also are going to have 2 entrances at this point too, where the clients will come in through the front entrance on 5th South, and then from 4th South is where all deliveries and staff will come in. So we're dispersing how the car flow will be happening and where people are parking, which I think will vastly improve how that works. Right now, the deliveries actually deliver off of Goshen. So this will bring delivery trucks again, off the streets and into our property. So we're very excited about how it will improve our impact on the community. And additionally, we provide a lot of services directly to the community. So we've got plans to expand to have more services for our neighbors that will be able to come in and take advantage of our things in addition to our direct services. So we're very excited about the ability to further impact our community in a very positive manner. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for addressing us. And like I said to our last speaker, please fill out a comment card. If there's no one else to speak, come on up and tell us your name, and then you can fill out a comment card after.
Name's Jason Rogers. I'm a parent that has their kids at Neighborhood House, and I'm speaking on behalf of them. So I've been there for going on 2 years now, and if it wasn't for the Neighborhood House, I wouldn't be a public servant working for the city, because I am a city employee, and if it wasn't for the Neighborhood House being where it's at, it would be making it hard. And I'm not just the only parent that agrees. So I've talked with a few parents today that couldn't make it, and they agree with me that even though that right now at this point in time, it does seem a little bit awkward for the street parking, but I do know with the new development coming into play, it's going to be hands down a great situation. I understand there's negatives and positives about everything. I just wanted to be able to add that I look forward to coming there every morning. I've experienced parking and things of that nature. I know that things could change, but I do see that they will change once this development takes place. But on behalf of myself and my kids and the other parents I talked to, that I would love to see things continue moving forward as originally planned in that regards. I could go on for an hour or 2 hours, but I'll just leave it at that. But thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of Neighborhood House, and I'm glad that they're there. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to come to speak with us, and Becky will hand you a comment card if we didn't get you one already. Anybody else? There's 2 more neighborhood house items you can speak to after this. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston and a second by Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion to that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes. We will look for action on that, scheduled tentatively for Tuesday, March 20th. On to our second public hearing. Another ordinance for neighborhood house street closure, this time the portion of 1100 West. I don't have any cards, but we have some hand raisers in the audience. Anybody want to come up for this street closure portion of our public hearing? No? Then I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Fowler, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion to that motion? All those in favor? Aye. That passes as well. We're on to item 3, public benefits analysis for the donation of city-owned property to neighborhood house. Speaking of the street closure. Anyone want to speak to this item? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Luke, a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion to this motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that one passes unanimously as well. I should have recognized that Councilmember Kitchen is quite under the weather. He was with us for our work session all day today and has taken some time to get better this evening, so he is absent from our votes this evening. On to item 4, an ordinance regarding a planned development zoning text amendment. I have one card from Cindy Cromer.
Excuse me. My name is Cindy Cromer. As you know, the Planning Commission makes the final decision regarding plan developments. Translation, you don't hear about the problems until your constituents complain about a project which is not compatible with surrounding properties. Then you do hear about plan developments, but you can't do anything about them after they're built. But you can modify this ordinance, which is what you're being asked to do, and you really do need to modify it. In the current frenzied market, the relief that developers are seeking does not result in enhanced projects. It exploits the land, something Izzy Wagner taught me, sweating the land. Here are some examples of outrageous requests from developers in my neighborhood. Reducing the rear yard setback to allow 3-car garages per townhouse. Persisting when told that 3 garages per unit were not appropriate for an urban townhouse. Reducing the rear yard setback so much that the potty area for pets had to be in the front yard setback on 700 East, where Good Dog would most certainly be drowned out by the roar of the traffic. Designing buildings which have no orientation to the street when all the other structures on the block do. With large-scale projects, we've seen the difference between a terrific design for the Violin School Commons compared to another project which will remain anonymous with its oversized buildings on a surface parking lot over an underground parking lot. In this frenzied environment, we need to be very clear about what constitutes an enhanced project. I would appreciate your adding language which requires an applicant to wait a year following denial. Then perhaps developers would pay attention to the feedback they're getting from the planners and from the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cromer, as always, for your thoughtful feedback on the issues we consider. I don't have any other cards before me. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this item? Raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion of this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one passes as well. We look at a tentative council action on Tuesday, March 20th. On to item 5, an ordinance looking at regulations for demolition and economic hardship processes in the local historic district amendments. I don't have any cards. Anybody want to speak to this one? Raise
Madam
your
Chair.
hand. Look for a motion. Councilmember Luke.
I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Luke, a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one moves ahead as well. We're looking again at a Tuesday, March 20th tentative council action on that. Item 6 is an ordinance for regulations on new construction in local historic district amendments. I have no cards.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting, if there isn't anybody else that would like to speak.
Raise your hand if this is your issue. No one. Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Luke and a second by Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? That one passes as well. March 20th, tentative council action. Item 7, an ordinance around the refuse code revision. Does anyone want to speak to that one? These are,
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing.
and,
Second.
okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Fowler to close the public hearing and defer action.
No, I'm actually going to close action. I want to close and approve.
Councilmember Fowler, do you want to second that?
Yes, I want to second that new motion.
And so I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Fowler to close the public hearing and approve this ordinance tonight. Is there any discussion?
That was-
Councilmember Johnston?
Yeah, this is one of those issues, is a big issue in some neighborhoods, and I don't know if we've gotten a lot of feedback. I haven't seen much of it, so that's why I'm not sure about closing the public hearing.
So, Councilmember Wharton?
Are we on agenda item 7, refuse code revision?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I
just
thought.
for the public hearing.
Madam Chair, is there a reason that we are voting on this tonight? Is there something that is urgent?
Councilmember
That you're aware
Rogers?
of?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I'm actually fine with delaying.
Do you want to change your motion?
Yeah, I actually do. I'm going to go with we're going to close the public hearing and refer to a future meeting for consideration.
Yes, Councilmember Fowler.
Is this the, because there's two, it is now, I think, I hope. Is this the policy that just defines what we can and cannot, what can and cannot be recycled? This isn't the second one
for-
that's about the fees,
This is our
correct?
brown
Number
container.
8.
The brown container
Our
one.
brown container clarifications.
Thank you.
And it sounds like, Councilmember Johnston, that you are looking for some feedback perhaps from the administration on public outreach and awareness around this proposed change.
Just to make sure before we close the public hearing on this, so.
Okay, so that's a separate request, and you can make a friendly amendment to
Yeah.
Councilmember Rogers' motion if you want to amend the motion to continue the public hearing, but right now we have a closure that we're about to vote on.
Sounds like a complete different motion, but I move a friendly amendment to continue the public hearing.
Andrew, for you, yes, I will do that for you.
a
Even though I feel
garbage
like this
ordinance.
is just for the brown containers and it's really just clearing things up, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. Just, I want to make sure that we are clear that the public has knowledge of what we're talking about, because one of the big issues in the last year was when they cut off brown container pickup, and we
In the
heard
middle-
about it.
in the middle of
Exactly.
winter.
Brown containers are a big deal for a lot of folks, so just make sure we're clear.
So I don't have a problem doing that just because I know there's going to be confusion in regards to the street pickup as well with the changing of that. So
That's true.
I'm fine with that as long as it doesn't go beyond really next March 20th,
I'm fine with
our
that.
next meeting.
Staff, you have clarity on this confusion? That we'd like some... Actually, why don't we have Councilmember Johnston articulate what you're looking for?
I just haven't heard any public feedback about this particular code revision with brown containers. And I don't know if there has been outreach, we haven't heard about it. I just haven't gotten much feedback on this. And so it may be no one's paying attention, it's not a big issue, but generally brown container waste is a big issue in neighborhoods and for some folks. So have we gotten feedback? Have we gotten much public outreach at all? Anything about this?
The change in the definition for the bulky waste and what would go in the brown bins
Yeah.
has been a part of what the Sustainability Division has done outreach on for how the neighborhood cleanup program is going to change. And so they did get quite a bit of feedback through that process, not in terms of concerns about these specific definition changes, but just in terms of how the program would be administered and the service would be delivered and things. And so it's all consistent with those proposed changes that did come about because of the public engagement.
Okay. Because I was under the impression that the bulky waste cleanup is a part of this revision as well. Is that correct or not?
Yes, and
It is.
not in terms of, they didn't need to make any changes to the ordinance in order to change the neighborhood cleanup program. It
Okay.
was just this one definition of size of branches and
Okay.
stumps and where they could go and which bin and things.
So that's an administrative move they could change in the next month to 2 months. That particular bulky waste pickup has nothing to do with changing this code, right?
This part of the definition.
This part of it, okay.
Right. It's really, it's something that they've tried to do over the years. The council may recall that they have tried to get residents to cut their branches or their tree limbs down as small as possible to fit in the brown bin. And so that there is less of that yard waste that's placed out on the curb for neighborhood cleanup or whatever version of the cleanup exists. And so this is just consistent with those changes that they've tried to implement over the last few years.
Okay. With that in mind, I don't want to hold this up, Councilmember Rogers, so,
Madam Chair, I go back to my original motion to close and approve this.
Close and
Ordinance.
approve?
Yeah,
Original.
original.
Councilmember Fowler, you still second that?
Thanks, Councilmember Fowler.
Any
Madam
other
Chair.
discussion? Councilmember Luke?
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we close the public hearing and defer for action to a future meeting.
Oh, I've got a substitute motion by Councilmember Luke and a
They're
second.
playing head games.
I know, a second by Councilmember Wharton. Of all the public hearings for us to go this far on, we will vote on the substitute motion unless that's out of order. Okay, our substitute motion is will you repeat it?
That we close the public hearing and refer action to a future meeting.
We'll roll call this one.
No.
Councilmember Rogers? Yes, I had a second with Councilmember Wharton.
I'm a no.
yes?
Johnston? Yes. Wharton, I'm a yes. That wasn't that fun. We have 4 yeas and 2 nays, 1 absent, and we will close this public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting, probably on March 20th. Just a little exercise in Robert's rules there. On to item 8, which also could be exciting. An ordinance to amend, this is a public hearing, on an ordinance to amend Salt Lake City Consolidated Fee Schedule for waste and recycling fees. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this one? Because I know some council members do. Come on up, Brandon. Brandon, isn't it? And we'll actually have to ask you to fill out another comment card after this.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Introduce yourself again, though.
Okay, Brandon Felsted. I actually got pretty strong opinions about this, and I don't understand why my combined bill has been going up constantly, but it seems like it's going up about, I don't know, 10% a year. And I think it's, there should be some checks and questions asked, why is it going up so fast? And can the people of Salt Lake, especially the west side people on the west side, can we afford it? And are we asking too much for our people? And, or from our people, I'm sorry. And that's it for today.
Thank you, Brandon. Becky or somebody can get you a comment card to fill out. I'll take a moment of personal privilege to address that this particular consolidated fee proposal on waste and recycling fees is just for special event organizers. So that, not for residents. But if you have questions about any of those changes, then I bet Lehua would step out in the hall and discuss those with you whenever you choose to leave the meeting. She can get you details about those cost-justified expenses and how we go about that. Okay, I don't have any other cards for B8.
Madam Chair, I motion that we continue this with a follow-up briefing to discuss policy issues raised by the increase to special events.
Do I have a second?
I would second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton, a second by Councilmember Fowler. Would you mind repeating the motion? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'd
For
move to
my sake.
continue this and ask that we receive further briefing on the policy issues related to how this will impact our special events.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed, and that sounds like we have more discussion to come on item 8. We're on to item 9, which is our grant application on the 9-line, the 900 South Trail Active Transportation Network Implementation Program, where we're accepting public comment for a grant that we would be receiving from Salt Lake County. And I have one card from, I think it's Robert Orman, I can't quite read the last name, so come on up and, Goodman, Robert Goodman, thank you.
Hi, yeah, my name is Robert Goodman. I'm a homeowner in the 9th area. I always like to speak in support of this ordinance. I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood, and I'm very appreciative of the bike paths. And yeah, I went to one of the community meetings at the Tracy Aviary and saw a lot of pushback, so I thought I would show up, show my support, and just express that I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to come out, Mr. Goodman. Anyone else want to speak to this grant application? All right, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council, am I the right one? Close the public hearing and refer item B9 to a future meeting for action.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That one passes as well. Now we're on to section C, our potential action items, where item 1 there is an ordinance for a text amendment to the temporary uses chapter of the Salt Lake City zoning code. I'll look for a motion. It's item C1.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 21A.42 of the Salt Lake City Code pertaining to regulations governing temporary uses, and I further move the recommended clarifications which were discussed during the January 16th work session and outlined in the staff memo be included in the final ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion on this motion? I just want to thank our planning department for doing these kind of cleanup items on our existing ordinances that help people and make life easier for our citizens and those seeking permits for temporary use. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we pass item C1. We're on to item C2, a resolution for the interlocal agreement for the Sorensen campus.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the resolution authorizing approval of an interlocal cooperation agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation and Salt Lake County regarding the operation of the Sorensen Multicultural Center, Sorensen Unity Center, and Steiner West Pool.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We passed that one as well. We need to renotice item 3 on our agenda, and so we're going to actually be holding another public hearing perhaps on March 20th on that one. So if you thought we were making action on that tonight, we're not. You can come back and talk to us again. We're on to D, Section D, our comments. Do we have any questions for David Litvak, who represents the mayor's office here tonight? Thank you for being here after a long day on the Hill, I'm assuming. Any questions for David? All right. This is our favorite part of the meeting, where we accept comments on whatever subject it is that you want to address the city council with for 2 minutes. But I don't have any comment cards. Is anyone here for the general comments section of our city council? You can raise your hand and just come up if you want to and fill a card out after. Okay, some people thinking about it. Okay. Okay. For new business, okay. We may, in moving on from Section D, since none of you have general comments for us, we would go to Section E of new business, but the person we are about to give our advice and consent on may be showing up, so we're going to skip to Section F, of which we have no unfinished business, and then to Section G, which is our consent agenda, with a correction to G3. Do I have a motion with someone who's looking at the correction to G3?
If you don't have the correction in front of you, I can say it's just to have the hearing on March 20th instead of
April 3rd.
April 3rd.
Madam Chair, I move that we, I'm blanking on the word. Approve the consent agenda with the correction of setting the date for March 20th, public hearing instead of April 3rd for the lease fee waiver for the Road Home and Shelter of the Homeless Incorporated.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion to the motion to approve our consent agenda with the changes noted? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And our consent agenda is approved, and now we're going to jump to the new business item. Good timing, Judge Landau. I will look for
Madam Chair,
a
I move we
motion.
suspend the rules and adopt Clemens A. Landau for the Salt Lake City Justice Courts.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Wharton. Is there any discussion to the motion? We had quite a bit of discussion earlier, so all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, you are Judge Landau. Welcome to the Justice Court. Okay, I'm just making sure that's all we have today. Okay, and with that, we're adjourned. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Adios, everybody.
That's fun.